Before we start this video, a large thank you to Strength1X for their support on Patreon. I hope you enjoy the video, my friend. And a massive thank you to Halo Burner and Ryan Bellin for their continued and massive support to the channel this month on Patreon. I hope you enjoy the video, gentlemen. And in here, I am going to say, actually scroll up for a second. Let's make because we don't have a private game object for the status effect pop-up. We want to make sure there's only one of these, or the prefab rather, sorry, that we can instantiate. And then we're going to say game object pop-up is equal to instantiate a copy of this prefab. So we're going to instantiate it, and we need a transform for it. And I don't think we have a variable for our pop-up transform parent where we keep all of those, the build-up bars. We don't, so I'll make that really quick. Let's make that a variable so we can parent under there. And the reason why we're doing this, if you don't remember, is because there's a layout group, and it's going to automatically sort all that stuff for us. So basically, the pop-up message is going to situate itself wherever we put it in the hierarchy above or below the build-up bars. So let's make a serializable field for the transform, and let's call this pop-up transform parent. Looks good. Now let's go to the project, create mono behavior script, UI status effect warning. Now you could just make a pop-up and delete it, but I will go a little bit more polished on this one because I think it's more important. So let's delete the start and update functionality as a permission drop in our namespace, and I am going to basically make this is going to be the script that sits on our pop-up game object. And let's make a public void set warning message. Let's make it require build type, and let's make it require, let's call it variable status, and we're going to switch it. Now, like I said, you can make multiple game objects for all of these pop-ups, but what I like to do is we're going to say using TM Pro is I'll make one pop-up prefab, and I will change the text color and message, I'll change its color and the text content depending on the status effect. So we're going to say warning text. Let's make this a text mesh pro UGUI. Let's make a public canvas variable or canvas group variable too, because we're going to fade this out over time. Okay, now under poison, I am going to say warning text.text is equal to poisoned exclamation point. And then you can set the color to a poison color. And I've just chose green in this project. You have purple and Nephilim, but whatever your poison color is, you can make that. We're going to get that in a second though. Now if you have bleed, we're going to say blood loss. Okay, now down under here, you can make a header for effect colors. And now, as I'm typing this out, I'm going to tell you, we're going to put these in the World Utility Manager later. Why? I'll show you. Because what if you want to call these from multiple places, right? Like, your poison color is probably going to be pretty unanimously the same for the project. Sure, you might have one for the UI stat bar and one for the text color. It's a bit more dark or light, but my point is you could be calling this a bunch of times. But for now, we're just going to say warning text color equals these colors. But you want to put these in a place where if you're going to use it multiple times, just so it's consistent, put it in one place and call it from that one place. So now under player UI pop-up manager, we're going to say UI status effect warning is equal to, we're going to call this pop-up warning, pop-up.getComponent UI status effect warning. So basically we're just getting this, this script from the component of the pop-up game object we're instantiating. And now we have a canvas group, but we're going to get to that in a second. Actually, we're going to make a function to fade that out. What we're going to do is say pop-up warning dot set warning message, and we're going to pass the status that we passed to this function. Okay, and then we're going to start coroutine. This doesn't exist yet. We're going to say fade out and then destroy. Now I'm going to keep this super simple, and I'm going to use a magic number or two because all I want this to do is just wait a predetermined time, like 2 seconds or 1 second, and then fade it over the course of a second. And if you don't like magic numbers, I certainly don't. I don't encourage you to use them. Don't use them. Make some variables here. But this for me is going to be consistent. I'm never going to change this. So I'm going to put a 2 there. Let's say wait. I'm just going to copy wait and fade out pop over time. I'm going to replace the last variable with a game object called object to destroy. Because what we're going to do is basically fade out the canvas element group. And then we're going to destroy it. So I'm going to say fade out, then destroy, which is what I named it up there. Great, perfect. Now I'm going to say float timer is equal to 0. Okay, then we're going to say while timer is less than the duration that we require this to be there, we're going to say timer plus equals time.delta time. And then we're going to simply yield return null. So we're waiting before we destroy this because we want to pop it to be there for a second so the player can read it. Otherwise, then we're going to basically make a new float. So right below that timer, we're going to call it fade out timer. We're going to say it's equal to 1. because I want this fade out over exactly 1 second. We're going to say while the fade out timer is greater than 0, we're going to say fade out timer minus equals time.delta time, and at the same time we're going to set the canvas alpha to the same thing of that fade out timer, because it's going to be between 1 and 0. It'll go from 1 right to 0 over the course of a second. We say yield return null, and we are good to go. So all this will do is it'll pop up. Oh, and then we're going to destroy the game object by saying destroy object to destroy. So it pops up, it waits the duration you want it to, and then it fades out the message over a second and then simply destroys the object. Okay, cool. So let's make that object now in the UI. Let's go to our player UI manager, and we're going to go to our pop-up organizer, and we'll just make it here and delete it after. So let's create a new UI image. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I want it to be a rectangular box that's kind of like not too big but very noticeable. Make the background black, but also, you know, that is kind of mildly ugly. So let's make it a little bit transparent to more match the effect of our other UI. I'm going to call it status effect warning. So I'm just going to go down here to the alpha and just tamper with that a little bit. Looks good to me. Create a new UI text text element. Call that status effect text. Now, if you want to expand this with different resolutions, you could obviously, let's just say poisoned first, exclamation point. But we're also going to hold alt, expand this right there, and we're going to put it in the center here. And you can make sure you can tick the box for auto size if you want it to scale as the box gets bigger. Entirely up to you. I'm going to set this color to green, but we're going to set the color to be the code, so it doesn't matter. I just want to see how it looks. Looks good to me. I'm going to add our new UI status effect warning script to it, and I'm going to drag in the elements. Let's make a canvas group here. Drag that into the variable, and then if you see we tweak the alpha, you can see that will indeed fade out. Very cool. Let's drop the warning text into the variable there, and let's save this as a prefab. So let's go to our assets, prefabs. I know I'm going very fast, guys, but I'm trying to condense as much as I can in a short time to save you guys some time. So if you need to, just play back the video, drag that in there, delete it from the UI like so, and then we can save this player UI manager prefab, and we're good to go. Oh, I didn't make the variable serializable, so we need to save this as a variable too. So go back to your pop-up manager and dragging your pop-up transform parent here, minus the pop-up organizer, and also go back in here and make sure your status effect prefab is serializable. Save that, and then I'm going to minimize it, and I'm going to drag that in there like so. Very good, cool. All right, now we save the player UI manager, and now let's go and do a check here. We're going to say if the player is the owner in the player network manager, let's send this pop-up. Actually, let's copy that first. Let's move it above here as well, because we're going to do something else as well. We're not just sending the status effect pop-up, but for now, let's do that. We are sending that, and if we're poisoned. So, if we're the owner, if we're poisoned, send the pop-up. Now, let's go to the UI character HP bar. We're also going to add the color of this. And this is where I said, look, we're going to reference the color of poison multiple times. And I'm going to show you because we're going to do it once even more after this. So this HP bar, for those of you who don't know, is the HP bar that appears above characters' heads in the world. So status effects, let's make a header. Let's make a color for regular color. And let's make a color for fill color. So this is the typical, poison color. So we have the typical color and the poison color. Now, every time we call set stat, we can check for this, and we can say if the character is poisoned, set it to the poison color, otherwise set it to the regular color. However, if you have more status effects than just poison that change the color of your HP bar, I do in my project, make a function for this and decide the color that way. You know, you don't just set it one over the other. Like what I do is I blend both colors if, for example, I have wither and poisoned affecting my character. But since we have just the one for now, I'm going to keep it very simple, just using if-else statement, no need to overcomplicate it. Let's make a serializable image. For that, we need to say using unityengine.ui. And this is going to be the fill color image of our fill bar. So let's just call this fill image. And what we're going to do is actually tweak that color regardless. And if you don't want to call this every time you set the stat, you can simply make a flag every time the character is poisoned and call that on is poison changed. Up to you, because this will get called every single time you set the character's HP, but both are valid and acceptable ways. So let's go down here on the UI character HP bar, and let's go ahead and copy the current fill. We're going to paste it on the regular color, and then we're going to set the poison color to green. Make sure you set the alpha too, because it's very sneakily always on 0 at the default color variable. So crank that up. There we go. That'll probably be fine. Let's set in the fill image, and then we're good. Let's save. So now on our character HP bar, you see we have UI stat bar, which is a different script. This works only on our characters' stat bars on their HUD. Let's make a public void toggle bar fill color. And again, if you have multiple status effects, you want to make this function a bit more than just binary, that's cool, but to keep it very simple, I'm going to keep it simple since we only have poisoned. We're going to do a check for if is poisoned, set it to the poison color. If not, set it to the default color. So let's make some fill colors, bar fill color, and then you can do the poison fill color, and again, using an image variable, the bar fill. Now you can see here we've made two variables here for bar fill color, 2 times on a health bar. So that's one more call than we should have, or one more variable than we should have. So if you guys want to, go to your World Utility Manager, and I encourage you to do this, and make a variable for your HP bar color. And then every time you want to set it back, reference that variable from the World Utility Manager. So that way if you change it in one place, it changes for everybody. The only exception obviously is if you want certain colored monsters to have different color HP bars. But I digress. Let's go to toggle bar fill color. If is poisoned, fill color dot color is equal to poisoned. Otherwise, fill image dot color is equal to bar fill color. There we go. Very simple. Now we need to call this obviously from our character, or rather our player network manager. So right now, if we came out under here and we open up some curly brackets here, we tried to call that. I don't think we can because I believe our health bar is private. So I'm going to just see right now and say player UI manager dot instance dot player UI popup manager dot, and then we could say, oh, it's not in pop manager, it's on the HUD. That's my bad. We could say health bar. Yes, it is private. So make this public. So we could say public health bar. And then what we want to do is just toggle it with the status of being poisoned. So we could say health bar dot toggle bar fill color when we pass the is poisoned, or in this case, true. And I guess you could put that above and call it with any. But we're going to check for the owner, and then we're going to say right under here, if is poison dot value, and then we're going to say else. So let's copy this, put this here, and then put this one here, false, and delete the status effect pop-up. So again, you can just say pass the status of is poison, both are acceptable. Go over here, and then let's copy, or rather erase this poison fill color, because again, I told you I've referenced this in 2 places, and that for me is too many places. So I'm going to erase this because I want my poison color to be consistent. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go to my World Utility Manager. I'm going to make a color. And again, you could make it public and get it that way, but I like doing things many different ways here to show you guys there are multiple ways to do things. So for the sake of being different and consistency with the script, I'll make it serializable, and I will make it so we have to use a getter. And obviously the pros of this, I've said it before, but I'll say it again, you can't change that then on accident by referencing this to a public variable. This is super important too when you're working with teams and people who don't know the code base as well as you, because they could just see this and be like, oh, okay, and then try to set the color here or something like that. But if you're working alone, generally the risk is not as big. If you're working with a smaller team, generally the risk is not as big. But still, the proper way to do this will be to use a getter, so you can't modify it. If it's going to be something you don't want to modify ever, you should use a getter method. Let's save that. And then we're going to, over here on toggle bar fill color, we'll say world utility manager.instance.get poison color. And there we go. And if you want to do the same thing for your health bar, which I encourage you to do, it's a great way to get some experience. Go ahead and do that right now. Go ahead and do that. And then set stat, same thing, we'll set the color right here. Save. Okay, now drag any variables on your health bar. So right here, copy your basic fill color. If you didn't make a network variable, a World Utility Manager color variable for it, save that. And then come back here on toggle bar fill color. We're going to say if fill image is null, just simply return. It's just a safety check. It should never be null, but just in case it is, do that. And now over here on your UI status effect warning, I'm going to create these colors. And again, I want the text colors to be a little bit different than the poison bar color because I want the text to be a little bit more visible against the bar. So I'm not going to use the World Utility Manager for this. And if I make it somewhere else again, I'll make a different variable for the text color. Now under Player Manager, specifically under onNetworkSpawn, let's call Player Network Manager on value changed on our is poisoned. And then we're going to say plus equals Player Network Manager on is poisoned changed. And then we're also going to unsubscribe from this on network despawn by copying it, going to network despawn, and changing the plus to a minus. However, we also want this to be called on our AI characters. So let's do that on the AI character manager as well. And just to back up a bit too, if you want to modify the color of the HP bar. You don't have to do it every time you set the stat. You can just create a special flag here on is poison changed, and you can modify the logic further. That's how I do it in Nephilim. I'm just trying to show you multiple ways to do things. You know, do whatever way you feel like you want to do, whatever way is right. Obviously, in some situations, there are better ways to do things. In others, it doesn't really matter. The consequences are negligible, or it's not that different. So let's copy this and paste down here on network despawn and unsubscribe from it. But this is only called when the value changes. What happens if you join and a character is already poisoned? Well, for the AI, it's simple. We're going to say if we're not the owner, because if you join and you don't own this object, it means you're not the host. We're going to say AI character network manager on is poison changed. We're going to say false, and then we're going to say whatever the current status is. And if they are poisoned, it's going to update for you accordingly. So back on the player, we need to do the same thing, but we have a function for this called load other player. So over here, it's called load other player characters when joining server. And we have a bunch of these here for syncing armor, projectiles, 2 status. Let's make one for status effects. So we're going to say sync status effects. And then we're going to say right down here, player network manager on is poison changed, false, player network manager. Then we're going to say is poison not value. There we go. Just that simple. Now I'm sure I'm forgetting something, right? The particles, I've just got these simple particles here from the Polygon Dungeon set. It's just some squares. You can make these in 5 seconds. I'm not going to get crazy with this. Got to rename it VFX Poisoned, and I guess I'll change the shape from a box to a sphere, and I'll change their color. But again, I encourage you to take time in your actual game to do this, but this is prototyping, so I just want to make sure that I can visibly see the effect is working, and there is a visual indication that my code is functioning as is intended. If I was obviously taking the time to polish this, I would not just have some cubes floating up in the air. I mean, maybe you could in some situations, I'm sure it looks fine, but right now that's kind of ugly. However, I'm going to save that as a prefab, my nice prototype particles. I'll drag that in here, original prefab. I'm going to zero out its position and transform by right-clicking transform, clicking reset, and I will delete this from my scene. Now let's go to the world effect manager. Let's drag in this game object, and I think we're good to go. We're not good to go. Let's jump back to the player network manager. I forgot to do something. So we want to actually assign this instantiated effect as our character effects manager poison effect, so the game knows we already have one, or we don't. So we say character.character effects manager poison VFX is equal to the poison effects we just instantiated, and now we save. Okay, now back over to our world utility manager. I'm going to make my poison color a dark color and make sure the alpha is not at 0, like so. And that looks good. Let's make it like not a nice green, like a gross green. All right, go into the game. Press start, load game. Here's my character. It's going to go in scene view here and click over here. And now if I go to my character effect manager, we still have that nice debug function. I'm going to apply some poison buildup. And boom, there's our pop-up, and our health color changes to a gross green, and those particle effects are there, and man, they look awful. Cool. So you can see the is poison status is true, and my HP is decreasing at 10 per tick, which is what I set it to. So let's make sure that the death sequence plays properly and nothing is broken. So it's almost down to 0 here now. Just a couple more ticks, 1 and 2, and there we go. Cool. So now if I respond, I should not be poisoned. Yes, I am not poisoned. All right, very good. So you can pick up my runes here. Let's make sure it actually works too when we untick the is poisoned. So you would do this when the effect timer reaches 0, or if you rest out of sight of grace. So if I untick this, boom, yes, the particle effects get deleted, and our HP bar changes. So there you go, guys. You have a poison system. It is working as intended, and now you have a way to apply poison status effects. So in the next video, I am going to do the same thing and finish the bleed. We're going to do that in one video because it's going to be a lot shorter now that we have all the framework set out. What we're going to do is apply the blood loss effect when your bleed reaches its peak. As always, a special thank you to my patrons. It is because of you this series exists at all. If you guys haven't checked out Nephilim in a while, it is at a point now where it's stable, and if you haven't tried the demo, it is the best time to try it right now. If you tried it a long time ago, I encourage you to come back if you thought it was interesting. It is at a point now where it's finally stable. I'm at a stage where I'm just optimizing it now. I'm making the loading a bit more seamless, and then we're going to get ready for a public demo release. Okay, self-plug over. I hope you guys have a beautiful and lovely weekend. I will see you all next week.